This is Matt with the Education Game, and we have a caller on the line calling from Houston. And hello, Mom. Tell me about your issues. You've got a 14-year-old and wanted to talk to me about her motivation, right?
That's true. Overall, she's been having problems to get motivated to study.
Hmm.
She just doesn't like to study.
Yeah.
She much rather learn how to do nails and hair. Uh,
Ah.
and with everything going on, it's been even more difficult
Hmm.
to um, have her, motivated to study.
Right.
And
So let me ask you. So she is a freshman or eighth grade? What grade is
eighth
she in?
grade.
Eighth grade.
Mhm.
Okay. So was this motivation problem, was it showing up before COVID?
Yes, it was.
Okay. It's just
Yeah,
gotten worse maybe with COVID.
yeah. It has gotten worse throughout the years, I think, but with COVID even more.
Yeah.
Uh, it did stay home for like the first part of 2021, and that was even worse. And
Really?
she told me I need to go back. I can't. I get depressed here at home.
Mm, gotcha.
So
Okay. And so is she back in school now?
she is, yes.
Okay. So back in person. Okay. And you said that she likes to do nails and hair. Anything else that she enjoys? Like if you were to say, okay, no more school, what would she do?
Yeah, that would be it. Or just be on her phone.
Is it social media?
Yes.
Yeah. hmm Anything else?
No, no. I'm a little worried that I would love for her to have something else, like any other interest, like sports or
Hmm.
like anything else, no matter what. But I feel like it's just that,
Right.
there's like no other options or choices, and that drives me a little crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So, I talk to a lot of parents, and there are themes that I hear a lot, and one of
Hmm.
them is exactly what you're describing: the idea that
Hmm.
my daughter is doing something, or my son who's doing something that I think is long term not in their best interest. The challenge about that is manyfold. We'll get into that in the call a little
Hmm.
bit. But I want to acknowledge something that one, you are calling me, so I want to just encourage you because it can be scary to be a parent. I've got three kids, and it's
Hmm.
frightening when you think that your kid is going down the wrong pathway. Um, and so I want to acknowledge that you are the kind of mom who's willing to call some crazy bald guy and ask for some help and some coaching, which means that you are the type of mom who's really willing to do what you can to help your
Hmm.
child. And frankly, most parents are like that. But I just wanted to start by encouraging you and really honoring your commitment to your child. All right.
Well, thank you. And part of that is that I see that what's going on and what they offer us as parents is just not working.
Yeah, that's very
And
true. So
no,
that's probably how we got connected, how you heard some of my, yep, yep.
absolutely.
Yep, yep. It's not working. All right. So here, let's take a short term conversation, and then we need a longer term conversation,
Okay.
right? So your daughter has, I will call it been disengaging from traditional education probably over the course of at least a year, maybe a couple years. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that she was struggling with some of this before COVID, so that means
Mm-hmm.
that there's something else going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that means there's going to need to be a longer term problem. In the short term, however, you've got, you're anxious. Um, how is she feeling right now, given that she's back at school? Is she still, feeling depressed or, um,
Well, it fluctuates. At
mhm.
the beginning, last year, she had, um, according to her, she was bullied.
Mm,
So that's why she didn't want to go back to school. But then when she
uh,
stayed home, she got depressed. So she was like, well, I might as well go back.
right.
And since she's been back, she's been doing a lot better. Her grades are going up, and it's I was like relieved. But
Yeah.
the last couple of weeks, well, before this week that there was no school due to the winter storm,
Right.
she started saying that maybe she want to go back home because there's too much pressure and there's too much drama at school. And I
Mm,
quote.
mm, mm.
So if she goes to school, she has that, but if she stay home, she gets depressed. So I
Right.
really don't know what to
Right.
do.
Okay, so goodness. So this idea of pressure and drama at school, oh my goodness gracious. That is so common. In fact,
Yeah.
I I don't think I've ever talked to a kid who has not felt pressure, bullied,
Hmm.
um, some threat at school. And so yeah, it's so common, it just makes me sick. So
Yeah.
so let's get back to kind of planning because that's what this call is really about. What do we do
Okay.
about it? So, and you said something really insightful. You said that if she's at home, she's depressed. If she's at school, she's kind of afraid, or right. So the question I would want to think around with here is how do we create a third pathway for her, right?
Exactly.
If home in the traditional model doesn't work and school in the traditional model doesn't work, what else is there? And there's actually a ton of options out there. But I need
Okay.
to understand before we go into some of those, I need to understand more about the context at home. You mentioned, I think we were off air, that you work from home. Is that a short term thing or is that permanent?
No, it's permanent. I do work
Okay.
from home. Hmm.
Okay. And is your work the type of work that allows you to, take 30 minutes off here, 20 minutes off here, flex?
Yes,
Like
it
that?
does for the most part. Hmm.
Okay, good. So I want for the parents listening, the importance of having flexible work is just incredible. And I know that every parent doesn't get access to this, but when you have it, that just creates many more opportunities for you. So in this case, mom has flexible work. So um, here's what I would ask your daughter, and I think you've already answered it, but this is what I would start with. Sweetheart, I want you to design a day that you think would be an amazing day of learning. That's it,
Okay.
right? And what she might say is, well, she's still stuck in a traditional school kind of mindset. And so she might say,
Hmm.
well, I'd only go to English class for 20 minutes because I don't like English class. And then I would, I'd be in art class for an hour because I like art. But then when I go to math class, I would, she would still probably be in that mindset. And what I would encourage you is to coach her to say, no, 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 I'm not saying school. I'm saying a learning day that would be amazing for you, that you would really enjoy. Now,
Okay.
as you ask that question, you're going to need to understand that she may answer it in ways that you don't like. Okay.
Okay.
She might
Mhm.
say, you know what, I'd love to spend 4 hours doing hair. Right. She might say that.
Yep.
And what we are now talking about now is what I call the learning leadership graph, which I have a picture of it behind me. I can show you another time. But the idea here is that every parent wants at some point for their child to be able to make their own decisions and to make good decisions that are their decisions. And then the parent can actually step back and play more of a coaching role. And
Right.
that's really what we're kind of getting at here is she's saying that she's interested in doing nails and in doing hair. You're saying those things are not going to get you to college or get you the life that you might want
Hmm.
for her. And there's that tension. That's
Right.
and now she goes to school and the school says, here's your assignment that you have to do, which has nothing to do with her interests. And it's really hard to keep doing something over and over again that has nothing to do with your interests, right?
Exactly.
So that's kind of my, having talked to a lot of parents and kids, that's usually what's going on. They're doing work they don't see any purpose for.
Hmm.
Frankly, I've talked to a lot of teachers, by the way, who say, yeah, a lot of the stuff we assign, it has no value at all. It's purposeless, right? And I, very intelligent people who argue that, after eighth grade math, uh, additional math should be optional, right? Very
Hmm.
learned people who say this. And so, um, but my point here is that, mom, you're going to need to wrestle with something, which is what your definition of success is.
Hmm.
Um, if your definition of success is your daughter going to college or getting a career, then you're gonna push her that way. If your definition of success is a little broader, which what I would argue might be what I would encourage you to think about, definition of success that includes things like um, joyful, um, um, doing work that she really enjoys, um, a person of high character, a person who is connected to family and community, a person who is mission oriented and purposeful. If
Hmm.
those are some of your definitions, then school sometimes can actually work against it. Um,
Right.
and the things that your daughter might be showing interest in, there may be something there that actually creates opportunity for her. So here, let me back up. So having had these conversations with other parents, here's kind of the two choices that you, mom, I think you have. One, you
Okay.
can kind of keep pushing your daughter, and you
Mhm.
kind of keep driving her and saying, more grades, better grades, etc. I've never seen a situation where more pressure on the child actually leads to better outcomes, right? Have you?
Uh, I agree 100%.
Yeah. So really that strategy is kind of dead in the water. At the
Yeah.
same time, I've also not seen many examples where the parent just disengages and says, "Okay, kid, you do what you want to do," and that work either. The child still needs adult support, guidance, coaching, and that's what you hopefully can bring to the table.
Hmm.
Um, but again, there's this question of school. What do we do with that time? And I think it goes back to the question you asked your daughter. What would you do if you had freedom to make your decisions about how this day looks? And if she says, or maybe you even suggested, what if you did nails all day long? What if you did hair all day long? Is that the day that you would really enjoy? You may see a smile show up on her face. And what I would suggest is if that is one of the things that causes her to be kind of joyful, then I would say, all right, let's negotiate, daughter.
Hmm.
Let's see how much you can get of the things that you need and want, but also some of the things that I think you're going to need too. Because as an adult, I've seen kids who may not know how to read very well or may not know how to do basic math very well. Those kids actually get into trouble. So what you would be negotiating is the things that she enjoys and loves and is passionate about, and the things that you realize that she may need to build up. And those may be very traditional learnings, things like reading, writing, and problem
Right.
solving, for example.
Hmm.
So if you have that conversation and she says nails, hair, that's what she would want to do. Would you be okay negotiating with her around a couple of other areas for her to learn?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. And this also, by the way, is as the children age up, we also move into a more of a negotiating role anyway, because she's 14. In a year and a half, she's going to be driving. You're going to be negotiating every day around, access to the car, how late she can stay out, et cetera, et cetera. So now we're in the process of trying to help her learn how to negotiate and to be a good negotiator. You get some of the things you're looking for, mom. She gets some of the things that she's looking for, and you both can be happy in there. All right. So now, what I would want to do is have another conversation with you after the conversation that you have with your daughter, right? Because if she says, again, nails and hair, then there's a conversation we should have around, okay, how do you build a learning plan that helps her learn how to do nails and hair, but also keeps her options open? Because at 14, she doesn't know. And
Exactly.
frankly, at 40 years old, I didn't know what I was really put on this earth to do. Right? I'm 49. I have a good sense about it now, finally. And it's this, by the way. So, so why don't you do this? Have that conversation, uh, and start to create a vision with you
Okay.
and her about what types of things that she would like to do and what types of things that you think still are important for her. And then call me back. And then we will talk about what it might look like to begin to transition out of a traditional learning environment. Because if she's now stuck in a situation where she's unhappy at school and unhappy in a traditional home school structure, then what we're really now talking about is creating a third way, which is
Other option.
not at school, not in a traditionally structured home environment, but in something different outside of school. And there's so many different opportunities that are out there for that child. Here's one more thing that I'm going to ask you to do before we talk again. I want you to buy the book or the audiobook called College Without High School.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a guy named Blake Bowles, who I just interviewed actually this morning. He's written several books on learning differently and learning and preparing yourself to be a different type of adult than what schools usually prepare you for. But his most recent book is called Why Are You Still Sending Your Kids to School? I would order that book today. If you are an audiobook reader like I am, immediately start on it, because what it
Okay.
will start to give you is a sense of the problems of school, but also how you can create a completely different type of learning for your daughter, or help your daughter to create it for herself, that prepares her for her adult life. And I'm not suggesting here for a moment that she will or won't go to college, but I
Sure.
am suggesting that pushing her further right now in the way that mostly schools do, that's not going to lead to anything other than just more drama, more heartache, more relational stress between you and her. Yeah. So would you be willing to have another conversation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
so your action items are, again, to have this conversation, daughter, and I would recommend you do it, on a Saturday morning. I mean, go to breakfast or make a nice, pancake breakfast for her, and say,
Hmm.
listen, sweetheart, I'd like to talk to you. I want you to dream for a moment. What would that day look like? A day of learning that you just would love, right? And if she says, again, grades, classes, things like that, say, no, 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 go beyond it.
Learning.
What? Yeah,
Hmm.
learning, not school. All right.
Hmm.
So that's the first number. The second thing is to get that book. Why are you still sending your kids to school? And
Okay.
immediately begin reading it, and read as quickly as you can, so that you can start having some sense that there is a life beyond the school. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to do one more thing. This is number
Hmm.
3. I'm going to send you a YouTube video that I made called A Dream Map, which might help you with the first conversation with your daughter. The
Oh,
dream map. Did you see
I've
that?
seen, yeah.
Okay. So that's another way that you might allow the daughter to imagine a life differently than what a school is usually kind of programming the child.
Okay.
So, yeah, so that first conversation could be about the dream map, or it could be about the beautiful learning day. But either way, you want her to start to imagine a different way of learning in a different.
Kind of the same concept, though.
Yes, good, 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 good. Okay, so when you have that, I'll send you, if off air. I'll give you my cell phone number, and you just text me, and then
Okay.
we'll jump on the phone soon thereafter, hopefully in the next day or two after, so that we can then take the next moves. Does that sound okay?
Sounds wonderful. Hmm.
Okay, all right. So a tribute to you. Thank you for your commitment to your child. Thanks for calling me. I know this is not easy sometimes to have this kind of conversation, but I hope that you feel a little bit more encouraged, that you feel like there's actually opportunity and hope, and a plan that we can build together for your child.
I do. I really do, because I don't want to keep doing something that doesn't work. You
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you for doing this. I really appreciate that.
It's my pleasure. Okay, Mom, off air, we just spoke, and I asked the question: do you feel comfortable having this conversation with your daughter? And you said,
I said most definitely, but I just want you to know that my definition of success is much broader than my daughter's dad, and
yeah.
we don't agree on the definition of success whatsoever.
Mm.
So that adds another level of complexity to this issue.
Yep. So we need to talk a little bit more about it. And I'm sorry I
Hmm.
didn't ask that at the beginning. I should have. Okay. So again, super, super common, that mom, dad have different visions about what success looks like. And that's whether or not you guys are together or apart. I mean, there's so many times I've talked to parents who live in the same household, and they have completely different views of what success looks like. So tell me, what do you think he would define as success for his daughter?
Well, he have already said, you need to graduate high school and go to college and become a doctor.
Hmm. Yeah.
Just plain and simple. I'm the kind of person that said, I want you to, yeah, have knowledge and everything, finish high school, but if college is not for you, there's plenty of things you can do other than that. And if you really want to do hair and nails, you can be successful doing that. Maybe probably not at the beginning, but if you really, do a good job, eventually you'll get to a point that you're, real good and all that, because I am the kind of person that really likes, education and college, and I'm more academic oriented than her. but
Yeah.
I spent many, many years studying, and I ended up doing something completely different.
Right.
So,
Right.
it's just, it
So
depends.
yeah. So where do you think her dad? Where do you think that's coming from? Why he has that definition? What's the motivation behind it? You think?
His dad was a doctor. It
Mm,
was the whole come to America to um, do good and be better, and you
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Okay. So there's some history in his family that says that if you're not a doctor or a high income earner,
mhm.
then,
Yeah, it really is about money. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, that is again, unfortunately, pretty common. Here's what I usually say to families. If I were talking to him, I would say, um, I want you to pick one of the following three options for your child. That one, they go to a fantastic college and get an amazing degree. Two, they have an amazing career, very lucrative career. Or three, they are a person of extremely high character. Pick one of those three for your daughter,
High character.
right? And every parent picks high character because we
Mhm.
know that when you have a person of high character, they are going to make their career work. If college is in the works for them, is in the plans for them, they'll make it work because they're a person of high character. And a high person of high character is a person who, yes, works hard, but a person also who understands who they are, understands their own passions, understands their own desires, and knows how to manage themselves. And so when you are a young person who doesn't get the opportunity to manage yourself, you really don't have the chance to practice character. You just do what you're told to do. Uh,
Exactly.
and I've seen way too many folks. I mean, I've worked with a lot of these folks who follow that conveyor belt to college and to a career, and then after a few months or a few years in that career, they say, "This is terrible. I hate doing this work." Right? But they're saddled with debt, so they have to continue doing the work, or they completely abandon the work and they go and do something that they would have done anyway had they had the
Mhm.
freedom to do so in high school. But for parents who have this kind of um, disagreement, then the only way forward, in my view, are two options. One is you begin a dialogue with the ex. And I'm not sure if that's possible. I don't know what your relationship is like, but that dialogue would be something along the lines of, um, do you think that by pushing your daughter that it's going to actually work? Do you think that she's going to now magically turn into a student, um, and go to college and become an A student in college and then become a doctor just because the parents push them to do so? Right? That would be the first question that I would ask. And some parents say yes because that's what she has to do, and others are more reasonable and say, yeah, it probably doesn't make sense. So the first option is to have a conversation with your ex. If that's not possible, then the second one really is to have a conversation with your daughter. Right? She's 14. She's much more woman than she is girl at this point.
Yes.
Um, and in fact, heck, 150 years ago, she might be married at this point, right? She may have a
I
child,
know.
and right, so she's definitely a woman. We don't treat her like that in our society, unfortunately.
Right. Right.
Um, but I would have a conversation with your daughter about, listen, I'm here as your mom to help you become the person. The language I use is the person that God made you to be, and I don't know what
Mhm.
that is.
Right.
Um, but I want to have a negotiation with you around what do you think God is leading you towards, and what do some of the things I think that God needs you to be prepared for, depending on how He might direct you in the future. And so, with that conversation, you're really saying, okay, daughter, you're in charge, or you're becoming in charge of your life. And you also might say to her, listen, your dad and I don't agree. And so you'll have to figure out how to manage that. But I'm going to be a supporter of you into developing into the person that you believe God is calling you to be. And character is far more important to me than your grades or your college degree or your career path. So that's the only two paths I can see that actually make sense. And it's an unfortunate reality, but it's very common. How does that sound or feel in terms of options for you?
Well, having a conversation like that with dad, it's I tried it and it just, I don't think it
Didn't-
works.
Yeah, yeah,
But I did have a conversation with her saying, look, we just don't agree.
yeah.
This is how I look at it. This is how your dad looks at it. And you're growing, and you're going to have choices, and that is going to, I feel like if you have choices, you're more empowered. She gets to choose. And
Yes.
I'm there for her to try to help her make the best decision.
Yes. Yes.
So that's really how I look at it.
Yeah. So it sounds like you've already had that conversation. That's very wise. And again, it's normal. It's very common to have these kind of dynamics. Okay. Well, I'll throw another option, and this, no one's ever taken me up on this, but if you think that he would be willing to talk with me, I'd be happy to have a one-on-one conversation with him. And I can share with him all sorts of data and information and kind of my conversations with the kids. Sometimes over 5 or 6 years, where the parents are like pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and the child just continues to disengage because nobody can push a child to do anything that they don't want to do for long, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so hang in there about that. That's very difficult. It always is. But as you have already said, your daughter is becoming empowered to make decisions for herself. At some point soon, she's going to have to make all the decisions for herself, and you're helping her in getting prepared for that. So good for you.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So call me back. Let me know about your conversation with your daughter, and then and the book that you're assigned reading, your
Okay.
homework.
Okay.
And then we'll take the next step of developing a plan, and probably have your daughter on the line as well to kind of frame out what a learning plan might look like. It might involve school, it might not, but that'll be a conversation we can have in the next go around. Okay.
All right. Sounds wonderful.
Great, great. Mom, keep up the great work. Last thing, hug your daughter, pray over her, a hedge of protection about her. All the advice I give, there's nothing better than hugging and praying for your daughter. So make sure you do those two things, okay?
Amen.
All right, good deal. Okay, well, we'll talk to you when you're ready to come back to me. All right?
Okay.
Good deal.
Will do.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.